What's up, disruptors, and welcome back to the show. I'm Hale, your host, and this is the Point of Impact podcast. I have got a fantastic guest for you today. Lonnie Bedwell is a dear friend and a fellow blind adventurer. In fact, we met out on the water kayaking together. He's a bit of a country boy, and I love to give him a hard time about it from time to time, but it's fantastic that he's never let accessibility or lack of technology hold him back from anything. In fact, he's raised 3 daughters, and even with their help and a little bit from YouTube Academy, learned how to become a pretty fantastic dancer. Besides that, Lonnie is the first blind person to kayak the entire span of the Grand Canyon, the entire length of the Grand Canyon along the Colorado River. And he just came back from summiting Mount Everest. We talk about all of that and a few of our adventures we had done together, and a few funny points, and a couple blind mishaps and funny things that have happened along the way. His experience on Mount Everest and what he's got planned next. I tell you what, there's far too much to fit into one show. I'm going to have him back, but I think you're going to enjoy this show. Before we get to it, I want to ask you for one quick favor. Lonnie doesn't have any excuses, and I don't think there is any excuse not to give the show 5 stars and a quick glowing review. And push it out to 1 or 2 friends you think will appreciate Lonnie's story. It's a fantastic one, and I think more people need to know about this fantastic man. So, without further ado, my chat with a dear friend, Lonnie Bedwell, or what he likes to refer to himself as LOL, Lights Out Lonnie. All right. Welcome to the Point of Impact, Lonnie.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Well, thank you for accepting the invitation. I know we've known each other for quite some time, my friend. It's been almost 9-10 years now.
Yeah, has to be, for sure.
Yeah,
I can't remember the first event. Was that in Anchorage, Alaska, or did we do one before that?
I think it was before that. I think our first interaction, the first meeting was out of sight clinic in Montana, 2014.
Yeah, probably 2014. You're probably right. I couldn't remember if it was mountaineering, skiing, or kayaking. I can't remember.
Yeah, we've had a few fun adventures together in actually just a short amount of time in between 2013 and 2015. Is then I was ill, and then I got the meningitis, went deaf, and a few of my adventurers kind of ceased just because I couldn't hear very well anymore. However, you've been on quite a few adventures in the last few years. In fact, I'm holding, which would otherwise be kind of an unusual thing for one person to send another, just this little tiny rock. I showed this to my son, Cameron. I pulled it out of the envelope, and I said, "You know what this is?" He goes, "It's a rock." Yeah. You know where it came from? He goes, "No." I said, "This came from Mount Everest." Yeah. And I told him that, I told him that, my friend, Lonnie Bedwell, a fellow blind adventurer, pretty amazing guy, had thought of me while climbing Mount Everest. And he was going through this incredible adventure, and I would like to get into that, your experience on Mount Everest, but I was trying to describe for him how the Herculean effort it is. And while doing so, he was thinking, of me back home, and the fact that I may not have that same opportunity to, to climb Everest myself. And he picked up a rock and he carried it back down the mountain and he mailed it off to me. And he said that was very thoughtful. Well, yeah, it was very thoughtful. But before we get into your experience, in the Himalayas, I would like to ask you to just give me a little background. Your where you come from, maybe a little bit about your service. What what are the key points in your life that shaped Lonnie Bedwell and brought you to today?
For sure. I was in the Navy from 1985 to 1994. Wrote submarines. I was a submariner, nuclear machinist mate. And I was stationed on the USS Oklahoma City out of Norfolk for the last 5 years, consecutive years. And then when I got off of active duty, I joined the Naval Reserve and then immediately rolled over pretty much immediately into the Army National Guard. And I was in the 2nd and 150th Field Artillery Unit out of Bloomington. And then 3 years to the day that I got off of active duty, I was involved in a hunting accident that left me totally blind. A good friend of mine accidentally shot me. I received a full shotgun blast to the face. I was told approximately 9 steps. Then after...
The way you told that story to me the first time, said your friend Dick Cheney'd you.
Yeah. I tell him all the time he's much better looking to me now than he used to be. So
yeah,
but we are still good friends. We still hunt and fish together. So that's good. It speaks volumes to him and his character. So he's a good guy. But after I lost my eyesight, I ended up as a single father raising my 3 girls. Then whenever my youngest one was a senior in high school, I finally went to VA Blind Rehab Center up in Chicago, Hines VA Blind Rehab Center. Then it was there that they asked me, they said, Lonnie, we know blind people snow ski, but we've never done it here as a recreational outing. Will you be a guinea pig? And I said, sure, twist my arm. If they can do it, we can. So that's where I was introduced to adaptive sports. And then, they asked me, they said they wanted me to do that because they said we have these younger veterans coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. We'd like to find something for them to do. So I'm like, I'm in. And then while I was up there, I also met 4 other guys who lost their eyesight as a result of combat or low vision, whatever. And William Murphy, I don't know if you ever met Murph or not. He was asked to go to event a few months after that, water skiing, sailing, and cycling. And he told them that he wouldn't go unless I went. So they invited me as a special guest, and then it kind of blew up from there for me. I just started getting asked to go to events all over the place and, volunteered to go to events everywhere. And it was shortly after that that I was asked by a nonprofit adaptive sports center in Crested Butte, Colorado, me and Steve Baskus, which I know you know Steve.
Yeah, of course. We've been on quite a few adventures ourselves.
Yeah. We were asked if we would be guinea pigs to do a mountaineering trip for the Adaptive Sports Center. They wanted to see about taking blind people mountaineering. So we did. And then it was after that me, you, and Steve, and I can't remember, it seemed like there was another blind person or two, went on a mountaineering trip out in Colorado, and we were led by other disabled veterans out in the San Juan region of Colorado. And it was at that point that you and I decided to go climb Mount Kilimanjaro together. And I don't know if you remember that or not. It was shortly before that trip that you ended up losing your hearing. And you talked about the rocks a little bit later. I don't know if you recall this or not, but I remember, initially when you lost your eyesight, the only way that we could communicate with you was to have someone spell letter by letter in your hand or somewhere on your body. They'd write letters. And I can recall I was on the phone with your caregiver while you was lying in your hospital bed. And I remember telling them, I said, you tell Aaron that I am not going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro until he can climb with me. And as I said on the phone, I could remember hearing you repeat every letter, then every word. And then when you realized what I was saying, you yelled at me. Matter of fact, you cussed me. You said, Bedwell, no. You said, no, Bedwell, you blankety blank. You yelled. You said, no, no, no. You said, you climb it for me. You climb it for us, meaning me and you. You climb it for all of us, meaning everyone out there. And I'll never forget you doing that.
That doesn't sound like me at all.
Yeah, not at all.
I'm pretty sure I would have said that you wait until I get better. Don't you dare climb that mountain until I'm ready.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, it's but I remember then, I was thinking, okay, I got to go do this. And when I went over there, I climbed with Army veteran missing a foot, another with a traumatic brain injury and PTSD and racked up shoulders. And there was a Navy SEAL over there named Oz who was climbing on behalf of a fallen comrade. And I told them the story about you in the hospital bed and what had happened with you, and about Eric Martz. And I think you met Eric Martz, Master Sergeant Martz. I told them about him, and I told them, I said, guys, I've got to get to the top no matter what and get 2 little rocks, one for each of those guys, one for you and one for Eric. And I'll not forget, that's Navy SEAL Oz. He told me, he said, you will get to the top even if I have to carry you. And when we got to the top, I had someone say, Lonnie, hold out your hand. And they picked up 2 little rocks and they put it in my hand. And I don't know if you remember this or not, or if you even have it. But when I got back from Mount Kilimanjaro, I mailed you and Eric those rocks. And ever since then, every mountain I climb, I reach down and I pick up 2 little rocks. And like you said, when I got back from Everest, I mailed you and Eric your rocks because you guys inspire me to climb those mountains. You know what, Eric, I tell this all the time. People ask me why I climbed and how I got there and up Everest. And I told them, I said, all the sacrifices that men and women like you and Eric made, and Steve and so many others, I said, that's why I do it. You guys give me a freedom to live this life. And I thank you all. Sincerely thank you for the freedoms you've given me. But that it pushes me. Every time I wanted to turn around and go back, I think of you guys and say, nope. They give me their best, and they're for damn sure going to get mine. And I thank you for getting me there, man.
There are definitely worse things to do with your time as well. Mountain climbing and whitewater kayaking. I want to back up a little bit. It was pretty funny. The first time we would mention that out-of-sight clinic, Team River Runner, when we first met. And you were trying to describe to me how to kayak. And, this was before I went deaf, but after going blind from the IED blast. And I'd still lost a good portion of my hearing from my right side. So when I got, the very first day kayaking, was on a good flat lake. It wasn't whitewater, and we all had guides, volunteers helping us, the new guys in the kayaks. And how we were guided in the kayaks was another kayaker would say, on me, on me. And you would follow the sound of their voice. Only problem was for me is it sounded like my guide was paddling around me in circles on me, and it sounded like he was just just doing loops around my boat as I paddled, and I was trying to chase him, zigzagging and trying. And he kept. I could hear the frustration in his voice as he says, "On me, on me." And I finally stopped paddling and said, "I would if you would quit circling around me." And he said, "I'm not going anywhere. You're doing donuts."
Yeah.
It's because I was turning my head, to the to the right to point my left ear, and it was actually acting kind of like a rudder. So even though I thought I was going straight, I was just spinning myself in circles. But I want to ask you first about how you got into the kayaking and what led you to become, the first blind person to kayak the Grand Canyon.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I distinctly remember you doing that. I'm going to talk about that with Yellowstone River real quick, though. And then as you start doing it, you start yelling "animal," what's your nickname? Animal, animal. Yeah, and we made a documentary film of that on me, as a matter of fact, and I still have some CDs of that, a few of them. That's cool. I got into kayaking in 2012. Like I said, I got into adaptive sports in 2011, and in 2012, I went to the Disabled American Veterans Winter Sports Clinic in Snowmass, Colorado. And while I was out there, I was introduced to the rock climbing, mountaineering, and kayaking. And kayaking was in a swimming pool, and Team River Runner was out there, had kayaks out there in a swimming pool. I went and jumped in the pool, and they told me if I could do a combat roll or Eskimo roll, which is where you flip upside down and use your paddle to flip back upright, that I could win a T-shirt. So I fought to win a T-shirt, and then they asked me to go to that out-of-sight clinic up in Yellowstone, Montana, a few months later, and I did, and that's where I got introduced to my first round of whitewater in 2012. And then after that clinic in 2012, Joe Mornini, who's the executive director and founder of Team River Runner, he asked me how I would like to be the first blind veteran to kayak the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon. And I thought, wow, what a vision. And we never thought it happened so quick, but the very next year in 2013, I went to the Grand Canyon for the first time. I had 14 days of whitewater experience under my belt, and that's when I did it. And then I think is after that, like I said, that I met you on the Yellowstone River. I think who all was out there with you on the Yellowstone? You, Steve, Baskus, Eric, Mark.
Oh, yeah. And it was funny, too, because Joe had given you a task to do before he would consider, putting you on the Colorado River. And he said you had to meet a certain quota of rolls, right? So what was that?
He told me I had to do at least 1,000 rolls.
So how did you do that?
I had a kayak that a guy gave to me. Joe didn't know this. I had it on my back porch, and paddle, spray skirt, and helmet, everything. And I had another gentleman up here just up the local town, started trying to teach me how to do a roll. And then I drug that kayak down to my pond the day after I got off the phone with Joe. I got off the phone and took that to my pond, and I did 100 rolls the very next day, among all the ones I failed. So that's how I did it. I just would take my kayak down to my pond and roll. And I quit counting at 1,500 rolls, 1,500 rolls. I don't know how many I actually did, but that's when I stopped counting.
You know, that's just probably the most important thing you've got to learn in the kayak, because it was the first thing after the basic types of paddle, strokes was, that day one when I was on a flat lake trying to learn how to follow my guide. The very next thing was learn how to roll, because, when you get on whitewater, you're going to tip over. That's just going to happen. And you got to be comfortable upside down. And so you don't panic, and you can get back up. I just remember thinking, and I don't think I ever got very good at rolling myself. And I figured I'd better learn how to grow gills before I'm going to get very good at this. Because I would almost make it back upright 180 degrees, but then start tipping right, but just enough time to grab a gasp of air and dunk right back down. And then the next time I would overcompensate and pop up and just roll 360 degrees right back down the other way. And, eventually have to pop that skirt and scoot out of there, as the next gasp of air was mostly water. But so you made the qualification, you got the rolls, and then I remember Eric Weinmeyer was at the same time training to do that, and it was pretty interesting. You and you were never much of a high tech guy. And for you, it was a bunch of guides and other kayaks, around you yelling out instructions, on me, all that. Whereas Eric was training to learn with those Navy SEAL throat mics, waterproof radios. And I don't know if he said he just wasn't quite comfortable on the river, and you just said, "Let's do it."
Yeah, yeah.
And another experience, with that high tech, low tech, was us going, and I love telling the story. Was us. You mentioned skiing in Alaska. It was spring skiing, and this also leads me into another question in a moment about Denali. Did you climb Denali?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought I remember them, but we were skiing, and I was trying to figure out how I was going to be able to be guided down a mountain, and I went the Eric Weinmeyer route with motorcycle intercom radios, a little microphone in my ear with a boom mic to my mouth, and a two-way radio. My guide would ski behind me and just say, left turn, right turn, left turn. And the urgency in my guide's voice on left turn, right turn, was how quickly I would have to slalom to avoid obstacles like trees or the orange fence or little kids in ski school. And that's not how you ski down this mountain. How were you guided down this mountain?
I chase a cowbell.
You chased a cowbell. Your guide was just banging away. And yeah, that's right. In fact, during the trip, I think more than once you might have heard somebody say, "I need more cowbell."
Yes.
And what's funny too is you had no idea what they were talking about. Somebody had to play that Blue Oyster Cult SNL sketch on their phone.
Yeah. I didn't know that. Yeah. I think were you the one that showed that to me? I think you
Yeah, I
were.
think somebody did,
Yeah.
Brian.
I hear it
So
all the time. I hear that all
whereas
the time. Yeah.
whereas I'm going the high tech route, you didn't need all that fancy gizmo. You're just gonna chase a cowbell down the mountain and ski just fine. That was a fun trip, and I really enjoyed that. But what reminded me of Denali was that this mountain in Alaska that we were skiing on was practically at sea level. And while you just climbed Mount Everest, it's technically, I mean, it is the tallest peak above water on Earth. It's not the biggest mountain. Now,
Now,
what is so unique about Denali?
Denali is just cold. And the thing that makes it a little bit more unique to climb as well is that they don't allow porters. So you have to pack your own goods and carry your own tent, your own food, everything. And so you are in a backpack and pulling a sled full of gear up the mountain. And that makes it really challenging.
Maybe maybe they should institute some kind of rule like that for Mount Everest. It might be a little more, a little less trash left behind.
Yeah,
But
that's one thing that was really frustrating to my group in Everest was how certain countries, if you will, and ethnic people had disregard. They would just literally throw the trash, while others would always pick theirs up or carry theirs down. You had some that just totally just they get done drinking and pop, they'd throw the bottle down or whatever, and it was
yeah, when I was talking to my son about that, and I said that everywhere else in the world, uh, everywhere, every mountain I've ever been on, the hikers and mountaineers, they live by this LNT, leave no trace, that philosophy, way of life, where you just you take out what you brought in. In fact, I was sitting on the top of, I think it might have been Mount Ajax and Telluride, one of the training evolutions before going on the 2013 Soldiers to Summits Peruvian Andes trip. And we were just eating our lunch, and I had an apple core, and I didn't want to just peg somebody in the head with it. So I said, what's a good direction to toss this? And I think it might have been Nick Colgan that said, do you see any apple trees around here? And I don't see a damn thing. But yeah, I get it here. It's a bit extreme. It's just an apple core. But that's how we live. Leave no trees whatsoever. So that's not the way Mount Everest is. And I figure if you treated it more like an expedition of Denali, where you have to pack everything you brought, you have to bring everything with you, carry, pack, drag a sled, and leave no trace, you'd get far more experienced climbers, far more respectful climbers. Mount Everest is a lot different. I haven't been there myself, but I've heard from quite a few friends that have been up there that it's a whole different world.
That it is. It is. And it's funny how, like you said, if you had to do what you're talking about, and if you had to actually hike all the way up and back down, everybody, there would be a whole lot less climbers. The number of people that actually fly in on helicopters to base camp and then fly up to Camp 2 and fly over the Khumbu Ice Fall or fly down from Camp 2 and over Khumbu Ice Fall, it's crazy. And there was people on this trip that literally flew home to China for a week and a half, waiting on a window, and then flew back to Camp 2 straight away and climbed the mountain.
Well, that's another thing. Because it's such a high altitude, there's that acclimatization. All right. And you don't just climb that mountain once. And tell me the process for going up and going back down and going up and kind of zigzagging the camps. What is that? What is the process there? Why do you do that?
Yeah, we flew into the little town of Lukla, a little villa, vista, whatever, and it was about 7,000 or 8,000 feet. We spent 9 days hiking up the valley to base camp, which is 17,000 to 17,500 feet. And we had a few rest days in there as well, just to give your body time to acclimate to the altitude. Then once we got to base camp, we actually went back down to the little town of Lobuche and climbed Mount Lobuche, which was right around 21,000 feet high, then back down and over to base camp again. Rested a few days, then we climbed up to Camp 3. Over the period of 5 days, we climbed up to Everest Camp 3, and then touched the camp and then back down to base camp again. And Camp 3 is about 23,000 feet. So just give our bodies time to acclimate. We went 21,000 feet, back down, 23,000 feet, and back down. And then we sat and waited for a weather window to push to the summit. And that's kind of what you do to give your body time to acclimate. And then once we pushed to the summit, once we got up above Camp 3, we put on oxygen ourselves. At Camp 2, they just insisted we do so. But normally you don't put it on until you get to Camp 3 and then push up, because around 24,000 feet is what they call the death zone. The oxygen can get so thin it's hard to sustain life. From 24,000 up to 29,000 and back down, you're on oxygen, supplemental.
And that's above Camp 3.
Yes.
So I'm going. You made it. So you hiked up to base camp, then down, climbed the sister peak, to Everest, then went back to base camp, up to Camp 3. Then you came back to base camp?
Yes.
And then back up to Camp 3. Now, why are you doing this back and forth?
You slowly climb up and down to give your body time to acclimate, to let it learn how to absorb oxygen at a different rate, I guess you might say. And then you climb high.
The question I've got, though, is why not like a diver? You have those decompression stages where, just similar, but just the opposite. You go up to Camp 3 and you just wait. Why are you zigzagging the mountain?
Yeah, well, like I said, you climb high, and if you stay high instead of coming back down, you really don't acclimate that well. So you climb high, then drop back down and to rest, And like I said, that gives your body time to adjust. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So the body doesn't really acclimatize as well resting as it does while you're moving. So might as well.
Correct. You've got to get high to get less oxygen. Let your body try to adjust to that, and then you typically come back down low. But yeah, it works better.
So then you get up to camp 3 the second time, then you rest and then head up to camp 2.
Yeah, we get up to camp 2 the second time. We rested a day, which also helps your body, and then we pushed up to the summit.
So all in all, how many times did you climb this mountain? If you count all the trips to the camps.
For me, Everest. Well, I went to Lobuche was actually off the side, so kind of twice, I guess you might say. Really, twice to base camp from down lower, and then twice up to camp 3 and back down. So I climbed all the way to camp 3 2 times, back down, climbed to the summit just once. I climbed up to at least 21,000 feet 3 times. So,
Incredible.
Yeah, 21,000 feet 3 times.
What can you tell me? Dude, what did the experience feel like to you? What kind of emotions did you go through? What kind of an effort was it for you? Was this harder? Was this just different than Denali? Tell me tell me your experience.
Yeah, it was very challenging. Just like Denali, being blind, as you well know, we can't move near as fast as a sighted person. So going from base camp on Mount Everest to camp 1, sighted people an average of 7 to 8 hours. It took me 11 and a half hours the second time and 12 and a half hours the first time, just because of it being so technical, going up and over things and stepping over crevasses. Very time consuming. I remember
talking to I remember reading in Eric's book, Touch the Top, about how he trained for, he prepared for as a blind person, being the first blind person to, summit Mount Everest. Part of that was, getting across these crevasse spans on these rickety aluminum, ladders that seem to be tied together with baling wire or twine. And you gotta practice. You're walking in crampons,
Yes.
or and then over these rungs. Did you do something similar? He actually got these similar ladders, put them across 2x4s in his yard, and practice walking on the ladder. It's just, getting the feeling without looking. How did you do that? How did you manage to not just step right through the rungs or off the ladder?
I did practice a couple of times. Once out in Colorado, or excuse me, once out in Flagstaff, Arizona, with a fellow blind veteran, Sean Cheshire, female veteran. And then I practiced one time while at base camp. So I did practice a few times. And It works. You can feel with the ladder hit the right spot on the bottom of your foot to kind of know where to place the front of your foot first and then the back. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And then you also had ropes to kind of hold on to give a little bit of pressure for balance. Yeah.
All right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a more terrifying experience than someone who can see, doing something like that. Yeah, this gaping maw of ice beneath you into the depth of the mountain. On a rickety, swaying, bending ladders tied together. And then add the fact that you simply can't see it, and just trusting, you gotta trust your rope team, trust the folks you have in front and behind you to make sure that they're guiding you over. And this is not just the crevasses, but the ice fall and these pieces of chunks of ice and rock that are flowing and falling. The size of Volkswagens, the
size of 3-story buildings.
Yes.
Seriously. Yeah.
And you've got to trust your team to get you up and down safely. Whereas, and this is another thing, besides just trash you're stepping over in some locations, you're also stepping over frozen bodies.
Yeah, we didn't have to step literally over any ourselves, but we did pass by some. And then personally, on my summit day, we literally walked past a couple of people that were perishing right there by us, and nothing that we could do to prevent it. And they did perish. And that was very humbling to listen to them basically as they were dying. It was, yeah. And on my summit day, my oxygen mask quit working a little before I got to the summit, and I couldn't get a full breath. It was starting to hurt my chest. And when I got to the summit, I told them, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Everyone was wanting to celebrate, and I was sitting there saying, I can't breathe. And I asked for a spare mask, and we didn't have any with us. So a Sherpa took his off, gave me his mask, and took my mask, and I could breathe. And then he said, I can't get this mask to work. And he headed down the mountain. So that was challenging and scary, kind of.
That's yeah, I can imagine. That's probably the worst place for your mask to stop working.
Yeah.
All the way at the top.
Yeah. Yeah. It was crazy.
Well, obviously you made it back down. What are your thoughts about the whole experience?
It was, like I said, challenging, very humbling, very surreal, and I'll never do it again.
You'll never do it again, huh?
Never do it again. I told people I don't care if they gave me $1 billion, I wouldn't do it. And that's the truth. My reason for climbing that mountain was not just for me, by no means. It wasn't for me. Yeah, and I personally had no desire to ever climb Everest. And it was kind of presented to me.
What is it about Everest that won't draw you back again?
Like I said, I feel like I was given a free pass because I had 2 oxygen masks fail. I had trekking pole break. I stepped once and my foot gave way and I slipped in the Khumbu Ice Fall, and I if I wasn't on a rope, I slipped and I bruised my chest across the rock or ice block. And like I said, I watched those other people pass away. And this year was, they said, the deadliest year ever on Mount Everest. And so, and the reason I did it, is done. I did it to hopefully, like I said, encourage other people to live the life that you guys gave us the freedom to live. And so it's done. I don't think I could find within myself a way to dig deep enough to do it again, because the next time I did it, it would be for me only, and that's why.
Yeah, I just from all of the reports, all of our mutual friends that have climbed that mountain, it's usually the same. That just it's the circus atmosphere. There's not enough respect for that mountain.
Yeah.
And that's why it claims so many lives. And and Jeff Evans has said it many times. I'll never go back. In fact, he only went back to become, to do rescue work. But it's a shame. But I'm glad you made it up. I'm even more glad you made it back down.
Yeah.
What's next?
I hope to be able to go do Vincent in Antarctica and ski to the South Pole. I never really had a drive to do the 7 summits, but now that I've done 4 of the 7 and I've already done what should be the 3 hardest, I would like to finish. If I can find the sponsorship and everything to do it, I will. And, and I help do this as well to bring awareness to the Blinded Veterans Association, the BVA, and to us. As you well know, that's one of the most challenging things for us is finding a way to get there. Finding people to believe in us, to give us a chance. And I hope to encourage that and bring awareness to that.
So which are the 3 hardest? You've got Everest, and I'm guessing Denali.
And
what about
then Aconcagua in South America.
Aconcagua?
Yeah.
What's hard about that one?
Well, especially the higher you get, it can get very cold as well. It's almost 23,000 feet high. That, the weather conditions and the cold up high is challenging. And then sometimes the heat and terrain down low can be challenging.
What have we got left to do of the 7?
I have Vincent in Antarctica. I have Elbrus in Russia or Europe. And I have Karsten's Pyramid over close to Australia, and potentially the one there in Australia. Yeah.
I told you my suggestion for Australia, right? Kosciuszko, and you do the Coast to Cozy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If that one's going to be such an easy hike up, you should make it a little more difficult to get there by running 100. I think it's something like 150 miles to the mountain. No, not taking that one. Not buying that one.
Yeah.
RMFE, rolling my fake eyes.
Yeah. There you go.
I think the skiing to the South Pole expedition would be absolutely incredible. And a friend of mine, Frank, who had done that this past January, is I think one of his thumbs is still recovering. But that's great. I mean, you're conquering these challenges that are difficult for people with all of their senses. And what is it that drives you? Why do you do these things?
For everyone else out there, to be quite honest. That's why I even started this back when I did. don't misunderstand me. I enjoy doing a lot of it, and I enjoy the challenges. Mountaineering, quite honestly, for me is the least favorite. But I've been given such an opportunity, and I just truly hope to encourage people to believe in themselves, to believe in each other. And quite frankly, I remember your words back in the hospital bed. I don't know if you remember it or not as well, but when you said, Lonnie, this is much more than you and me on a mountain. We have to prove what's possible. And your words have stuck with me from that day. And, I can remember telling my mom and dad too, when I kayaked the Grand Canyon, they asked me why. And I knew I was going to be guided by all these other disabled veterans. And the same thing, I said, they give me everything they had. They deserve everything I have. So I feel like it's my next mission or duty assignment to keep pushing the boundaries and trying to get people to believe, once again, believe in each other and believe in themselves. And what can we not do? And we have to live this life. And I said it to start the show. We have to live this life that you guys gave us the freedom to live. And
Great.
that's why I do.
I could just imagine you at the top of a mountain freezing your butt off and blaming me for I can't believe it. But there's a story you told me a long time ago that's always stuck in my head, and I think it really does frame the whole effort, your personality, and I think that you're still living in Indiana.
Yes.
And you raised 3 daughters.
Yes.
And it was Bug, your youngest.
Yes.
And the lawnmower. I really do appreciate your time, sharing your experiences, your philosophies, and a little bit of your life with the Disruptor Nation and the Point of Impact podcast. I loved just getting a chance to catch up with you, my friend.
Oh, I appreciate it so much. And I thank you for having me on your show. And like I said, I'd gladly come back anytime for sure. I appreciate it.